Hi everyone! So today I'm making a video on my process. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. You can do it. Come on. Come on. Come on, you got it. Come on. There you go. Hi. So come on up. Up here. So today I'm making a video on my process of getting Coda and my kind of the story behind how I got her and how I train her and just how I ended up with her in specific. So my first service animal was a rabbit. His name's Bunnels, and I'll put a photo somewhere here. And he was so sweet. I got him as a rescue from someone's garage. I got him on Kijiji. He was about 2 years when I got him, and his name was Furby, and I hated it. So I brought him home and I renamed him. I tried Lucky, Hugo, you name it, I probably tried it, but his name ended up being Bunnels. I still have him too, he's over there. And so I had him for a while. I had him for years. I still obviously have him, but he started out just as an emotional support animal, which I know isn't a thing in Ontario, but his service work, I guess, was emotional support, since that still, I think, qualifies in Ontario. It's a long story. But eventually he did start learning specific tasks, like picking things up when dropped, which was one of his major ones. And he knew pressure therapy for as much as a 4-pound rabbit could do. So he was my first service animal, and I've had him since 2016. So going on almost 5 years soon of having him. And I retired him in September of 2019, just because he was a little too old and he didn't enjoy going out and doing all that stuff anymore. So at that time I knew it was time, okay, I gotta get a new service animal. And at this time I wasn't sure. I was still in foster care and trying to convince my foster parents to let me get a dog just wasn't happening. So I had to wait until about October to get Coda-ish. I went and I saw her and picked her up and such in August, but because my school needed all these papers and stuff filled out, I had to wait a little bit to get her. So yeah, I got her in October. Yeah, October. And so I got her, I picked her up. I'll put baby photos and such as we go. But I picked her up and I brought her to a pet sitter because of my school being weird about it. And I talked to my doctor about her. I already had my doctor's note and such. And so I brought her to my residence dorm room, I think October 4th or something, from the pet sitter. So after that, I started doing basic training with her. I got her first vest, which was just an Amazon vest. It was pink, and I remember when I first started, I didn't know much about service dogs. It's my rabbit. I didn't know much about service dogs, so I remember I had her on a flexi leash attached to her vest. And looking back on those photos, it was such a wreck, but we've learned a lot since then. And our first thing was obviously sit and down, such stuff like that was the first thing she learned. You good? Ignore that. So the first thing she learned was sit, down, come, leave it, those basic things. She started her public access training at 4 months old, and the first places we went to that were non-pet friendly was the mall, because it was pretty close. So we started going to the mall and Walmart and places like that, just building up her confidence and what she knew and what she didn't know, and seeing what we needed to improve on. So that's the start of what she and I were learning. Later on, I got more diagnoses from my psychiatrist, I think is what he is. And Coda's training got tweaked a little bit, so she was learning different tasks like getting things, picking things up, retrieving things. She knew deep pressure therapy. She was learning light pressure therapy. She was learning the basics of guide work, so just knowing left and right and forward and backwards and find a door, find an exit, find the counter, things like that. And just the basics of what she would need to know for later on. I know a common question I get all the time is what and how I trained Coda, and a lot of Coda's training was with treats and just working in my school, working at my residence, working in the mall, working with friends. Coda was really bad when she was younger. She at the very beginning freaked out when she saw dogs, and I don't mean like jumped, I mean she would bark and whine and all these like crazy reactions. And I remember I posted on a Facebook group and I was like, hey, I need some help, does anyone want to help me? And I met up with a really nice trainer and her dog, her service dogs, I think it's a service dog now, it was in training at the time, her service dog's name is Spirit, and she was really great with helping Coda to learn her impulse control and don't bark when you see other dogs and what she should do versus what she shouldn't do. So just Spirit was really good. Spirit and her handler were really great at helping teach Coda what she can and can't do. She's sleeping. Later on, we started using, around like 5-6 months, we got using prong collars because we tried halties and gentle leaders and easy walks and martingales, and she just didn't want any of it. She hated all of them. So we used a prong with her, and it was the best. It was the easiest one for her to adapt to. She liked it way better than the other ones. And she started just thriving on that, and we really made a lot of progress. So then December came, closer to January, and my residents and school were telling me, hey, you need to get her spayed or she can't stay here. And I know it's controversial and everything about when your dog should and shouldn't get spayed and neutered, and if they should or if they shouldn't. And I didn't get a choice. My school told me, you need to get your dog spayed. I remember they wanted her done at 4 months, when I told them we can't. Like, I cannot spay my puppy at 4 months. That's ridiculous. So they let me wait till she was about 7 months, just before, like a day or two before 7 months. So she got spayed just before Christmas, in 2019, and she was recovered by about January 15th. I started taking her back to school, and this was also the time when I started really bringing her to classes and just starting a single class and pieces, because I had a lot of classes where they were scheduled for 2 hours, but they'd only really run for an hour on some days. So sometimes for those shorter classes, I would bring her with me so that she could get used to just sitting and doing nothing. Or I would bring her something to chew on, or bring her a blanket or a quiet toy, just so that she could learn to sit there and not be so rambunctious puppy. And that went really well. At the beginning it was really hard for her. Like, she would only make it maybe 15-30 minutes through. She's drinking water. My rabbit's drinking water. She'd make it about 15 to 30 minutes most through her class, and I'd be like, whatever, that's fine, I'm not going to force you. And I'd bring her back to my residence, and then I'd leave her there, give her food, whatever, and go back to class. And I did this for about 2-3 weeks until she really started settling down. eventually at around 9 months, we really focused on longer classes times. So around 9 months, I really started bringing her to maybe 2 classes, so it was 2 hours and 2 hours. And she seemed to get that majorly for the most of it. So things started doing pretty well, and by, I'd say, March-ish, she was coming to all my classes, which would have made her about 10 months old. And she was pretty good with classes. Hi, Coda. You're taking over. You're taking over. Yes, you are. And she was doing really well. And then April kicked in, and our classes started getting put online, and we had 2 weeks off, and it was crazy. We had a lot of miscommunications, learning online classes, figuring things out. And then mid-April, closer to May, I moved out of residence because they were kind of kicking us out. And I moved into an apartment with Coda, and we just been sorting things out ever since then. So that's our basic outline of, you know, Coda's story and how I got her and how I raised her and everything we've been through. And if you have any more questions, you can leave them in the comment section, because I don't mind answering questions. I try to respond to all the comments as I can. And I hope that this answers a couple of questions that I've had commented recently. So yeah, thanks for watching.